there are two reasons. There are kind of two reasons for the veil. One has to do with hierarchy. If you read the actual text, if you read St. Paul, when he talks
Right.
about that a woman should be veiled because of the angels,
Right. Yeah.
it's like there's Paul talking about the hierarchy of principalities. He's saying that there needs to be these buffers between the different levels of reality, and the danger of removing them, it creates a kind of, it can create a monstrosity. Like if you well, that's a good, let's say it's a good way to understand it. It's like if you remove completely the iconostasis and you open up the holy place, then what ends up happening is there's a monstrosity which appears, which is that we don't approach it with the reverence that we should. There's a profanation. We profane the higher things, or we profane things. They end up being people, like they end up people in advertisements talking about mindfulness and all that crap, like people who say I'm one with the universe, and all
Right.
that nonsense. It's like it ends up being a kind of profanation of something which is supposed to mean everything, but now because it's been thrown out, it's like pearls to swine. People can say things like I'm saved by Jesus, say that. And it's like, what are you talking about? It doesn't mean anything. You're not talking about reality. You're using words that are supposed to be extremely precious and extremely mysterious. And now you're just like saying, I'm saved by the blood of the Lamb. And it's like, do you even know what you're talking about? Anyway, sorry for the rant, but that's one of the reasons why we need veils, is to prevent that kind of nonsense, right? And so on the one hand, there's this idea of protecting the lower from the higher. So the woman is veiled because she's let's say she represents our world. She represents, let's say, the earth. And so you have to you have to have layers between, so that you don't get this throwing pearls, like profanation, where things fall and it's like nothing means anything. But there's also another reason why women are veiled, which is the opposite. And that's why it's so fascinating, is because the woman is also the Holy of Holies. And so we also have to veil her from us. And that's the strangest aspect of it. It's like we also have to protect the mystery, in the sense that as the Holy of Holies brings the bread to us, right? That's also where life, like you said, life comes from the feminine. And so we need to protect that mystery. There has to be a kind of protection for so when you're so a woman, in the sense that a woman is, for each man, a woman is his holy place to a certain extent in the strictly man-wife relationship. And so there has to be a mystery there. There has to be a protection, so that in the intimacy that you have with your wife is something which is precious and kept just for. So it's all of that that's happening at the same time. That's the way I understand it. It's a tough stuff. It's a tough thing to talk about, because it's so controversial right now.
Right. Yeah. Wow. You're gonna piss off a lot of feminists right now. Okay. Yeah, that one's kind of really. I'm speechless. Obviously, that's kind of okay.
I'll let you think about that a little bit.
Yeah,
Anyway, that's also the thing about the feminine, which is difficult for people to understand, is how it's like how a wife is the glory of her husband.
Right.
And so what does that mean, man? That's some intense language. There's some intense, the feminine is kind of like the separation of the waters, where you have the waters below and the waters above.
Right.
That's both feminine. You can understand it that way. You could. Not necessarily. There's a way in which you can understand the waters above as being masculine, but there's a way also where it's also this thing that surrounds
it. Right. Okay. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, sorry to freak you out there. He's like, I didn't think he was gonna. Yeah, they didn't think he was gonna say stuff like that.
It's like, yeah, really. Yeah. Okay. That's really throwing for. Okay. So I don't even know where to go from there.
Yeah, sorry, man.
No, it's good. It's good because now, yeah, this is gonna give me something to really, really chew on for a while.
Well, that's why, if you look at a lot of, if you look at, for example, at the Middle Ages, at the European Middle Ages, okay, if you look at the manner in which knights spoke of the lady,
Right.
and the idea of the veneration that they had towards the Mother of God, but also the veneration that they had towards their lady in general.
Right.
And when you see that, that's when you can understand this holy of holy aspect of the feminine,
Mm-hmm.
where they venerate the feminine as the sacred place. And so the veil that the woman wears is a kind of hiding of that mystery, of the mystery of the holy place from the onlooker,
From right.
right, from those that are outside of the mystery, right. And so in that sense, you can really see that, you can really understand it, especially in courtly love, in the courtly love symbolism. You can really see that that's what it's about. It's all about this idea, and masculine even more so. And so it's like the knights had a very, very strong veneration of the Mother of God, more than anybody else. The Templars, for example, like if you read some of the writings, they were extremely dedicated to Our Lady, because it's also, like I said, it's also about this, as the masculine figure venerating this holy place. But like I said, in St. Paul, it's also presented the other way, where it's also this the lower aspect of reality, which needs buffers in between it in order to not, let's say, create the thing that you see in Genesis, where it says the
Nephilim.
The idea of the sons of God going into the daughters of men, where you get this like thing above which goes straight to the thing below without going through the normal levels. Then you get a monster. And you can understand it in so many ways. You can understand it in the 20th century. We had exactly that problem, where, let's say, in the Middle Ages, again, you would have a king, but nobody ever saw the king.
Right.
People didn't see the king. The king was in his castle, and anyways, all these people were there, and the king would say something. Maybe once a year you would see them, and then most of the time you interacted with your noble, and your noble then would have access to the king once in a while. So it was like a normal hierarchy where things came down the hierarchy. But and that was how government works. That's how the army works. That's how all of this stuff works. But then in the 20th century, we created this situation with technology, with all this stuff, where it's like you could have Hitler and you could have 100,000 people standing in front of him. And he would speak directly to the people. So you have the top of the pyramid speaking to the bottom of the pyramid.
Bottom, right.
That would create this frenetic monstrosity that we saw. And it wasn't just Hitler, it was all the demagogues of the 20th century, you know. And that's the problem of the demagogue in general, is like someone who wants to be the head, but then has direct access to the lower, the masses, without going through the proper channels. And almost all the revolutions happen that way. Even Julius Caesar did exactly that. Like instead of going through the normal methods of the Senate and all the laws, that he went straight to the people and started, speaking directly to the people. That's how you cause a revolution,
And so, and you can actually see this in the language that many Protestants speak, where they're like, they don't need the saints, they don't need the Theotokos, they have direct access to Jesus, right? Is it something like that?
Well, it's direct access, it's even direct access to God. Jesus almost doesn't even exist.
Right.
Like it's me and God, it's like God, and God is telling me what to do. And so, and I mean, obviously, yeah,
I know. I don't want to get you going down there.
You know what I think about that stuff.
It's fascinating. Okay. So that makes sense. The Protestant world really fascinates me anyway. I was only in it for such a short time, but it's looking, now that I've been away from it for so long, looking at it, how much it's It's everywhere.
Mm.
And it's just like, well, I mean, just the way it's set up, the people are looking at whoever's talking to them, it's all just facing each other. It's like, that's no different than anything else.
Mm.
It's no different than a business meeting or a concert. So yeah. So anyway, that was a bit of a tangent. Okay.
Hopefully, but I'm hoping that might help to understand the question of the veil, or the question. And
Yeah,
veils are so important. I mean, it's so important
right.
to understand, even if we don't, most people don't wear veils today, but like to understand
Right.
the importance of veils in the sense of this, the importance of a hierarchy having levels and having different transitions between all the different levels. Because if you
Right.
don't, then that's when you get, you have problems.
I was just thinking of the house. Like, that's what the house is too. The house is just a series of veils between every room.
Yeah.
And as you go deeper and deeper into the house, I think you were even talking about that. I was like, there's a certain part where everybody's welcome on the porch. Few people are let in to the living room. Not too many people are let too far past any of that, right? Yeah.
And we can understand what kind of monstrosity would happen if let's say, if you brought your sex life out on the porch.
Out on the
right. And then it would be, that's what a prostitute does, right? That's what that's the dissipation, and so you wouldn't, unless if you want a family, you definitely won't want that. You don't want to just go out and have sex with all the strangers. You want that, you want it to be reduced into your bedroom where it's just you and your wife. And so that way you keep the mystery, and you prevent this kind of monstrosity of dissipation, which would be the other way.
Right. Mm-hmm.